Dear scholars, in today's class, we are going to study a very interesting and newly added topic, that is evolution of English in India. In this topic, I will talk about the historical evolution of English language in India and how it has progressed in our country. This topic was recently added by University Grant Commission as Unit 6 of the syllabus, and this is the topic which is not available in any of the book as it's newly added. So I'll try myself to simplify it to the best level. So let's start the history of English in India. The history of English has the origin once Britishers entered in India on 31st of December 1600. Before that, Indians were not find comfortable in English language. So English stepped into the Indian subcontinent along with the British people upon the establishment of British East India Company on 31st of December 1600. The company started signing business deals with the native Indian rulers, as though in those days Indian rulers were also not united. Some rulers were controlling Bengal, some were controlling Delhi, and they were also fighting with each other, not uniting. Just their main purpose was to capture others' land. And these Britishers took a great advantage of this. They subsided with the strongest rulers. They signed some business deal with them and also helped them to capture other parts of the country, other rulers' areas. Slowly, the company succeeded in widening its horizon in India. Initially, they came for the business, but now they have started spreading their colonies. So the people who initially came for trade started establishing their colonies now. They defeated many of our native empires, native rulers, and eventually they were able to set up their rule all over India. And by the beginning of 18th century, almost all the parts of India were the parts of the British Empire. So the English people, which came along with the English language, that spread over several parts of the country. But in the 18th century, only it were the Britishers who were speaking English, not the native Indians. So initially, Englishmen did not consider it important to educate Indians about English language, and so for a few decades, English remained only among the rulers, or it was called a ruler's language. First time in 1793. The idea of educating Indians about English clicked in the mind of William Wilberforce. So he's William Wilberforce is called the pioneer of evolution of English in India. Although his idea were just rejected, but definitely it churned the mind of other rulers. So the famous British philanthropist William Wilberforce in 1793 proposed to add two clauses in the Company Charter Act. And the proposal was that for sending out schoolmasters to India from England, that means to teach the Indian students, the teachers should come from England so that they can teach their own culture, own language, own behaviorism. And the second was to commit to the religious improvement of Indians. What do you mean by the religious improvement? They wanted to spread their own religion throughout our country so that our own religions like Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, and all this must be downgraded, and Christianity to be upgraded. So these were the two proposals proposed by William Wilberforce in 1793. Although these clauses were discouraged by the then British government, but later on in 1830, the British government did not consider the education of Indians very seriously. But in 1830, it came the Company Charter Act 1813, which changed the entire educational system of India. So the Company Charter Act was renewed in 1813 that brought English language into India. In this Charter Act, the government inserted a clause.
So they said that Governor General of India had to spend minimum 1 lakh rupees for the education of the Indians every year. This was a question asked in, I think, 2018 or 2019 NET exam. And what was the clause that was added in the Company Charter Act 1813? So this was the clause. And why they wanted to spend 1 lakh rupees? They wanted to introduce English in India, teach English in India. So the Charter Act of 1813 had several major influences and impacts on the education of Indians and the growth of the English language. Because once they are investing their own money, obviously it is for their own purpose, not for the sake of Indians. So the people of India who were totally ignored, they were not knowing about English language. So some of them were very much keenly interested in learning that language, because that time also they felt that the Western people are advanced, they are cultured. So the educated people of India took interest in this newly arrived literature. They started reading English language, and it also encouraged the translations of the great Sanskrit and Arabic works of art that were present and popular in India. So the Indian people started translating their own Sanskrit and Arabic works into English. Thus, it helped our ancient classic works to reach the world outside India. So in one way, we were adopting English language, but in the other way, we were spreading our cultural inheritance, religious inheritance out of India through the translation of our epics. The Charter Act of 1813 also promoted the production and publication of English books in India. Before the Charter Act 1813, there was no English book was published in India. Publishers were not allowed to publish English books. But only it came after the Charter Act 1813. Now English books started getting published in India. Although the Charter Act was renewed in 1813, the implementation took time. The Committee of Public Instruction was set up in Calcutta in the year 1923. Although this Charter Act was commenced in 1813, but the Instruction Committee was formed in 1923, just after 10 years. And the amendments made in the Charter Act of 1813, and what are the amendments that were made in 1923 when the committee was set up. So let us see what this committee has done. This committee worked for the growth of English with an Oriental policy. The policy is Oriental. It not only considered the growth of English alone, but also the simultaneous growth of regional languages too in the education system. But if you see from the other perspective, why they are encouraging the regional languages? Because if they start English language suddenly by removing other regional languages, then definitely it is going to not suit with the people. So they wanted to introduce the English slowly. So this giving a growth of regional languages was just a bluff to Indians. Prior to Charter Act 1813, Christian missionaries had started their educational activities as early as 1542, when Saint Francis Xavier arrived in India. So you must have seen so many Saint Xavier's school. So Saint Francis Xavier arrived in India in 1542. And from that time onwards, they started establishing Christian missionaries all over the world and started introducing their own religion, their own culture through St. Xavier's School. The missionaries set up systematic education in India. Classroom education system was established by these missionaries. So these missionaries take a good and great step in the evolution of Indian education system. But the missionaries were not focused on Oriental policy. Whereas the Charter Act 1813, giving 1 lakh rupees every year to the Indian education system, this was completely Oriental. The missionaries encouraged the education of the regional languages along with Western subjects and the English medium of instruction. So St. Xavier's School, starting from 1542, their medium of instruction was English only. Then the very great changing moment of Indian English education system came in 1835 by Lord Macaulay, the Governor General of India. And his ideas are called Minutes of Macaulay's 1835, very famous. So Lord Macaulay came to India in June 10, 1834 as the law member of the Governor General's Executive Council and was appointed as the president of the Committee of Public Instruction.
So please mute everyone.
Yeah, they are muted already. Okay, so Lord Macaulay came in 1834 and he was General's Executive Council, and he was appointed as the president of the Committee of Public Instruction. Means he was just being appointed to control the communication system of India. And to improve the communication system, he submitted his famous Minutes of Feb 1835 meetings, minutes of the meetings, to the Council of British, which was approved by then Governor General of India, Lord William Bentinck. This is another very important question. Minutes of Macaulay meetings was approved by which Governor General? So in 1835, the Governor General of India was Lord William Bentinck. And a resolution was passed in March 1835. So what were the main points of this minutes of the meeting that changed the entire education system of India? First, all funds appropriated for the purpose of education would be best employed on English education alone. Before that, in the Charter Act 1813, we saw that 1 lakh rupees that was being provided every year, that was for the advancement of English as well as regional languages. Now, this Macaulay says that all those money must be invested in English education alone, no Indian language. So whatever the funds that are being released by the governor, all should go to education of English alone. A very, very important step taken by Lord Macaulay to introduce English in India. Second point, all the existing professors and the students at all the institutions under the superintendence of the committee shall continue to receive the stipends, but no stipend shall be given to any students that may hereafter enter at any of these institutions. Means the stipend that was being given to the students were completely stopped. Although the professors were getting the stipends. I'll repeat this point because it's very important. All the existing professors and the students at all the institutions under the superintendent of the committee, means all those colleges that were governed by the Governor General, shall continue to receive the stipend, but no stipend shall be given to any student that may hereafter enter at any of these institutions. What does it mean? If any students is going to enter in any of the institutions, no students will be given any stipend. The third point, the government funds were not to be spent on the printing of Oriental books. What do you mean by Oriental books? All those books which were not in English language. So the government funds will not be spent on the printing of Oriental books. The government fund will only be there for the publishing of English books. Fourth point, all the funds at the disposal of the government would be henceforth be spent in imparting to the Indians a knowledge of English literature and science. Whatever the fund that is coming from the government, British government, all the fund will only be given for the improvement of English literature and science. So see, these all things that are introduced by Lord Macaulay, everything was implemented in 1835. Arguments on section 43 of Charter Act by Lord Macaulay. So what are the arguments that he gave on the Charter Act 1813 when he gave his own minutes of the meeting? He said that the term literature meant the English literature, and learned natives of India meant those Indians who had acquired knowledge of Western science and knowledge. लिटरेचर का मतलब क्या है? उसने समझाया कि जो आपने 1813 में चार्टर एक्ट में बनाया था, उस टाइम में लिटरेचर का मतलब था कोई भी लिटरेचर, चाहे वो संस्कृत का लिटरेचर हो, अरबिक लिटरेचर हो, इंडियन लिटरेचर हो, बट Macaulay said literature means the English literature. Learned natives of India, मतलब इंडिया के पढ़े लिखे लोग कौन है? Those Indians who had acquired knowledge of Western science and knowledge. वो पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं जिनको वेस्टर्न के साइंस के और कल्चर के बारे में पता है, वो पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं. This is the argument given by Lord Macaulay. Indian scholar was also defined by Macaulay as the one who learned Locke's philosophy and Milton's poetry. इसने बताया कि इंडिया का जो स्कॉलर, एक पढ़ा लिखा स्कॉलर कौन है? जिसको जॉन लॉक की फिलॉसफी पता है, ऐसे कंसर्निंग ह्यूमन अंडरस्टैंडिंग जो इसकी फिलॉसफी दिया था. तो दोज हु हैव लर्नड द लॉक्स फिलॉसफी एंड मिल्टन्स पोएट्री, दे आर द लर्नड स्कॉलर्स. दिस इज अनदर इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट that may be asked in the exam, that who is the learned scholar according to Lord Macaulay? The one who has learned the John Locke's philosophy and Milton's poetry. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Because each and every point of the slide is very, very important. Next argument was given to stoppage of grant to the Oriental schools means if government failed that its old educational policy had failed, it could change its policy and stop the grant. Stoppage of grant to the Oriental schools means all the regional schools that were providing the education of Sanskrit and the local languages. So all those education went in the hand of government, because if government feels that its old education policy has failed, then it will change the policy. The fourth argument of Macaulay was that the knowledge of English would enable the Indians to have commercial intercourse with the distant countries. What the argument they give that why this English language is going to be beneficial for India. So this argument said that the knowledge of English will enable the Indians to have the commercial communication with the different countries, because English is likely to become the language of commerce throughout the siege of the East. What he gave the argument that English is going to be an international language and Indians will be able to communicate with the other countries. So these are the arguments that was given by Lord Macaulay just to approve his minutes of the meeting. The fifth argument was the learning of English by the Indians would be beneficial from the standpoint of administration. So once Indians are able to learn English, then administration by Britishers will be easy. They will be able to administer Indians in a better way. So how this Macaulay's meeting was criticized? Macaulay's minutes was criticized on the following grounds. Macaulay's claim about English as only the medium of instruction cannot be justified. He said that only English should be the medium of instruction. It was not justified. It is wrong to believe that Macaulay was responsible for introducing a new educational policy in India. Although before that, in the Charter Act itself, it was introduced. Other Indian languages were completely neglected. His downward filtration theory proved to be more failure for Indians. What do you mean by downward filtration theory? Filtration means the filtration of other Indian languages that were completely neglected. That is called downward filtration theory of Lord Macaulay.
Uh, 15 years, Wood's Dispatch of 1854. Very, very important topic. So what was the objective of Wood's Dispatch? To confer upon the natives of India those vast and material blessings which flow from the general diffusion of Western knowledge. To confer upon the natives of India. So what they were conferring? The vast and material blessings which is of Western knowledge. So Western knowledge were to be conferred to the natives of Indian. They have to bring their language, their culture to Indian natives. The second one, to raise the moral character of those who partake of the above advantage. To supply the East India Company with reliable and capable public servants. Because the workers of the East India Company were mainly the Indians. So if they are introducing English language, that means they are making their workers language friendly, communication friendly. To secure for England a large and more certain supply of many articles necessary for her manufacturers and were extensively consumed by her population. To secure for England a large and more certain supply of many articles. Whatever they were planning, they were only for the upliftment of England. So more and certain supply of many articles necessary for her manufacturers and were extensively consumed by her population. So whatever the consumption that was more required by England, those had to be supplied and to be produced in large quantity. What were the recommendations of Wood's Dispatch? Acceptance of responsibility. It was accepted in the dispatch that responsibility of educating Indians was that of British government. This was the recommendation of Wood's Dispatch. So the first recommendation was that Indians को train करना, Indians को educate करना किसकी जिम्मेदारी है? British government की जिम्मेदारी है. So they took the acceptance of responsibility. Next is establishment of DPI, Director of Public Instruction. So the dispatch recommended that the existing Board of Control for Education to be abolished and the office of the Director of Public Instruction should be established in the states. So this Director of Public Instruction was under the heading of British government. So Board of Control of Education, that was abolished and Director of Public Instructions started. The next was establishment of universities. The dispatch recommended for the establishment of universities in the presidency towns of Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras. The London University, which was then a purely examining body, was to be taken as their models. So this was the first time in 1854 when the British government thought of building the Presidency College, Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras, and they have to be modeled on London University. These all are very, very famous questions. Next is the medium of instruction. The medium of instruction of education in India would be English only. The dispatch accepted the views of Lord Macaulay. So whatever Lord Macaulay has recommended in his minutes of the meeting, the same was to be continued by the Wood's dispatch. So how you came to know that who is Wood? Actually, his name is Sir Charles Wood, who was the president of the Board of Control. And he was responsible for spreading education in India. As I said, that British government has taken the responsibility to educate the Indians, and for that purpose, they have appointed Sir Charles Wood as the president of the Board of Control for educating Indians. So he came with his proposal in the year 1854. And these are the recommendations that were made and approved in 1854. The next proposal and approval was grant-in-aid system. The dispatch proposed the system of grant-in-aid for the Indian educational institutions in order to encourage the private enterprise for expansion of education among Indians. So this is the first time that privatization of education system was introduced. I will discuss this point in detail in the coming slides. Training for teachers. In order to secure properly qualified teachers for schools, the dispatch suggested the training of teachers in normal schools and to induce men of better caliber to come to school service. The dispatch recommended sufficient salary for school teachers. So this was the first time where teachers training started in 1854. Before that, teachers need not to take any training. They could have directly taught into their schools. But after this Wood's dispatch, taking teachers training was important part, because that teacher training was given by England people, the teachers from England. And they only teaching these Indian teachers how to teach the Western culture, how to teach the Western books. Then the next proposal was of women and Muslim education. As Indians were too much orthodox, the British government did not show any interest in education of females. It insisted on a policy of strict neutrality in religion. The next recommendation was about vocational education. The dispatch put more importance on vocational instruction, and to that end suggested the need of establishing vocational colleges and a school of industry. So why they were too much interested in the vocational education? Because they wanted the Indian people to work for the East India Company. And that is the reason they were more centered towards the vocational education. The next proposal was of mass education. The dispatch admitted that mass education had totally been neglected. And so far, the government devoted its attention exclusively towards providing means of education for the higher classes. So I told you that what is grant-in-aid system. So in order to be eligible for grant-in-aid, a school was to fulfill certain conditions. As I said, that grant-in-aid system is the privatization of the government schools and colleges. So this was the first time in the Wood's dispatch that grant-in-aid system was introduced. So what are the criteria that a school has to fulfill to get accredited as grant-in-aid system? The school must impart a good secular education. It must agree to inspection by the government officer. It must realize a tuition fee, however small, for the pupils. So what was the ultimate significance of this Wood Dispatch? The Wood's Dispatch was considered of great significance in the history of Indian education system. It is considered as the Magna Carta of English education in India. So there was another question somewhere I found that which education system is called a Magna Carta of English education system. So it was Wood's Dispatch that came in 1854. So the Charter Act 1813, Lord Macaulay's minutes of the meeting 1830.
39, 35, sir.
1835. What is 1839?
Lord Auckland.
Lord Auckland. He became the
Auckland,
Governor
yes.
General of
Auckland
India after
Minion.
Lord William Bentinck. And after that
Bentinck.
came Sir Charles Wood's proposal that is called Wood's Dispatch in 1854. So it provided a scheme which tried to touch all aspects of Indian education. There were some limitations in this proposal of Sir Charles Wood. The British government was vehemently criticized by the people of India for a centralized system of education. Indian languages and Indian cultures continued to be backward and it were neglected. Overall, the dispatch laid the foundation of English education in India. The dispatch suggested the establishment of only examining universities and could not think of a teaching university. So this was all about the Wood's Dispatch, and there was a question asked in June 2019 exam. As I said that it was just this syllabus was introduced in 2019, and this was the first question that was asked in June 2019 exam.